I'm a low-income mom
Yes, I
living
saw
in the,
you.
and my daughter's first board book was Happy to be Nappy.
All right.
And the words that you guys are saying right now are so sustaining. As a low-income black mother, I have been struggling to find my voice. And so I've been using my platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and talking about this being a whole person, what it means to be unmarried with 3 baby daddies and 4 kids. The pushback that I am often feeling is not from the white folks in the community. It is from the other sisters who will tear me down, tell me that the reason that I am low income is because I didn't have the insight to choose good men, that I should have kept my hand out and my mouth closed and my legs closed and kept my hand out. And so I'm trying to figure out, as we talk about this plantation culture, as I try to rise above my circumstances and literally create meals that the babies in my community can eat, how do we... It stops you from wanting to have that voice. I have people who tell me, when you talk about being low income, don't talk about feeding your kids on food stamps. You don't need an audience for that. Suffer in shame and in silence. The situation that you are feeling is your own and is a product of your own bad choice. I am pregnant with my 5th child and just had this man walk out on me. How do you wake up every morning and... I consider myself a black feminist, but some days it's just so hard to get out of the bed and face other black people.
What's going on, YouTube? This is your girl, KD, aka Fish Grease. And I hope, for the sake of understanding this video, you all did not skip the less than a minute and a half little clip that this starts with, because if you did, please go back and just look at that so that you can understand exactly where I'm coming from with what I'm saying. Shout out to BGS Ibmore, who posted this clip and his commentary on it, which was awesome and very on point, as he usually is. But I don't pilfer topics from other people. Try to come up with my own thing in my own time. But inspiration is not pilfering. The woman in the video is interesting. Her situation is not unique. It is not uncommon in the black community. She said that she was a single mother, and at the time of that video, I'm not sure exactly when that clip was taken, but at the time of that clip, she had 4 children, and she was pregnant with a 5th child. She was not only not married, but she was also not in a committed relationship, and the children had different fathers. She also mentioned that she considered herself a feminist. There are a lot of things to touch on here. And the first thing that I would like to touch upon that she mentioned was when she talked about how she didn't feel pressure, or she didn't feel bashed or downed by white people. She felt bashed by other women, or other black women, who had given her the advice of perhaps closing her legs, so that she would not continue to dig herself in the hole that she was in. And before I move on to other points, I'm going to focus on that, because she considered it negative. She considered the message negative when those women told her that she should make other choices, that she should do something differently in order to find herself in a different situation. she took that as a negative thing. She didn't like it, and she considered it to be bashing or downing her or running her down. And the part about that I want to focus on, and I want to broaden the scope away from her specifically, because she is not alone in her thoughts and she's not alone in her situation. Um, there are many Black women, and I'm focusing on Black women as I usually do because this is a channel by a Black woman about Black women. I've repeatedly said that I don't care about other races and cultures of women because everyone else separates themselves from us. So I'm separating us from them, and I'm focusing on us as Black American women because we find ourselves in unique culture and a unique situation. But anyway, there are a lot of Black women who feel that constructive criticism, no matter how it is brought to them, no matter who brings it to them, no matter if it's repeated loudly, or if it's said in a loving way, or if it's said in a mean-spirited way, however the package gets delivered, there are many Black women who feel that if you criticize anything that they have done, such as in this case, having multiple children without their fathers in their lives and in their homes with you and with them, that if you criticize those decisions, because she characterized the father of her 5th child that she was pregnant with at the time, she characterized it as he walked out on me. Okay? Now, when you place those things together, the concept of he walked out on me, in conjunction with I am being bashed by other women when they tell me to make other decisions other than the ones that I have been making in the past, we find that we have a dysfunctional mindset that many women are walking around with. Okay, they are conducting their daily lives under certain misunderstandings, under certain false pretenses. They are operating under a false sense of security, and they are also operating under a false victimhood a lot of times. And I may touch back on that if my memory does. If I don't go too far into different tangents, I might come back to that victimhood because there's a lot of it. And one such victimhood was, I'm pregnant with my 5th child and he just walked out on me. There is no accountability there. There is no context. There is no circumstance or condition presented. It is simply in a room full of feminists whom this lady readily identifies herself as a Black feminist from what she said in the video. That was purely, squarely a blame on this man, whoever he is. Whether he's a worthy guy who got fed up with some situation and left, or whether he was some scrub of a guy who was not worthy to be reproduced in your womb anyway. You blame that guy. She blamed that guy for just walking out on her. Just one day he's up. The way it was put, one day he's just up and he walked out never to be seen again, and leaving her high and dry yet again with another pregnancy. And I want to just touch on and talk about the concept of just this lack of accountability. Lack of accountability, and also the viewing of constructive criticism as a bash. Okay? And I don't understand why a lot of our black sisters, a lot of our black women in America feel as though they cannot be criticized about any decision that they make, no matter what the outcome of those decisions are. And no matter how many times they repeat the behavior. Okay? I don't understand why there is no learning. There is no, you know, the old saying goes, experience is the best teacher. Well, I don't know what kind of experiences these people are having, because they're not learning anything from the different experiences that they are having. And we can kind of see why, because they characterize it a different way. They spin it to themselves as if these things are not their fault. They are simply the victim of circumstance. They have little to no control over what is happening to them, what is going on with them, and the direction of their lives when they are adults. Okay, we're not talking about children or adolescents. We are talking about fully grown. These are women who are quick to tell you how grown they are and how over it they are and how much they're not going to put up with this, that, and the third, and what they're not going to do, and what you can't tell them, and what you can't make them do, and what you can't, they're quick to tell you how grown they are. And they are adults, except for when it comes to the thing that adults do, which is to take accountability for the things and the decisions that you make. And make no mistake, ladies, having these children in 2018 is a choice. The only quarter that I give is to young girls. She's 15, she's 16, she's being immature, and she's being silly, and she's being goofy. She may have actually believed the game that was spit at her. Well, she's young. She is susceptible. If the right guy comes along with the right game, he look good enough, and he give her some sex she's never had before, she'll believe it. She will believe that he loves her, and and that everything is awesome and things like that, until she gets pregnant and thinks that it's okay to be pregnant, and she goes to tell him, and then the script flips 180 degrees. Okay? And then she learns real quick that her little decision and thinking that it was awesome and they were going to be together forever, so it was okay to get pregnant and bring this baby to term, because she waited to tell him until it was like too late for an abortion or whatever. And when she thought it was going to be roses and it wasn't. At 15 or 16, I can give you quarter, because you're not an adult. You don't have, as teenagers, you have like this sense of invulnerability and invincibility. Nothing can happen to you. Nothing bad will ever happen to you. So teenagers operate under that. As adults, we know better than that, or we should. But I give leniency to one time you were young and you were stupid and you thought being pregnant was gonna be cute, and it's not. I can give you that. I can give you a mulligan on the one. But when you're 27 or you're 32 and you're on your fourth or fifth or sixth, you no longer have the license to say that some man somewhere tricked you, fooled you, coerced you, victimized you, preyed upon you to take all of that sex that you had fun with, and you climbed the walls with it and all of that, and you begged for it, and you moved it in with you, and all of this kind of stuff. And now all of a sudden you're victimized when he does not want the kid you already have for, that you probably wanted him to accept you and those four that are not his. And you just made things harder because by, just using this lady as an example, you're already low income on food stamps, on Section 8, on whatever. So it's not like you have this large income that you're dealing with. And to bring another child into this world under those circumstances is asinine to me. It's callous, because you are not thinking about the quality of life that your children have to deal with by being with you and being born under the circumstances that you have created. And you have created these circumstances, ladies, because she's not the only one. I'm not talking to her. I'm just using this as an example so you can kind of see it, illustrate what I am talking about. Because many of you are operating under this mindset, and it is a destructive mindset, because like I said, you're not considering the circumstances and conditions that you have created and the environment you have created, that you are bringing children into poverty that pre-existed them. Okay? The single motherhood, particularly in the Black community, exacerbates the poverty level. Let me repeat that. The single motherhood in the Black community exacerbates the poverty level. Okay? It makes us poorer than we need to be, because only together can we generate any amount of wealth. Okay? It cannot be done individually. It certainly can't be done by government handout. Welfare will not get you where you need to go financially. Not as a group. But then that leads me to something else. The great womb hustle. The womb hustling. The hustling and the selling of the access of your womb. You hustle it off, you sell it off. It's like pimping. You pimp your own womb. Because you allow, and in 2018, you are allowing yourself to bring these children into the world under less than stellar circumstances. Because there are condoms, and if we're just talking about the prevention of pregnancy, not diseases, not just pregnancy, condoms have a greater than 90% success rate if used properly, considering that there's nothing wrong with it, it's not defective, blah, blah, blah. Okay? There are morning after pills. There is spermicide. There are the old school birth control pills. There are the shots. There are the inserts. There are multiple options for birth control that women have. And if one of them doesn't work for you, then another one will. And last but not least, there is abstinence. That is right. No one wants to hear about not smashing. But there's abstinence on the table. You don't have to be abstinent forever, celibate forever. But you can tolerate being more choosy and careful. But there is a womb hustle afoot. This is how these women make a living. And the government is complicit in helping because they reward such behavior. And mostly the women who are doing this are of the feminist ilk, whether they acknowledge it or not, because they are of the thought pattern that in order to have these children and live and make a way, I don't need a man. But in my last video, which if I don't forget, I'll put a link in the description box, I detailed how feminism specifically was designed to do what? Destabilize the family unit. And this lady self-identifies as a black feminist, as if there was a difference between black feminism and white feminism. The only difference between black feminism and white feminism is they don't come to your rescue, but you go to theirs. When you have an issue, when you're being drugged in the street, there's not a single white Becky that shows up in a women's march for you, but you'll show up in a women's march for them. That's the only difference. They actually get whatever they consider to be benefit out of feminism, and you don't. You get poverty and the disrespect of your men. Okay? We've already detailed this. What I talked about destabilizing the family using feminism, that is not new information. I'm not the first person to bring that to bear. That is old information. The clip that I put in that video was 7 or 8 and almost 10 years old. And the information was older than that. So it's not new. This is not some new thing that just cropped up and no one knows about it. This has been going on since its inception in the 60s, when they thought, oh, okay, this is a good way to destroy families. This is a good way to, because once we destabilize an entire family, the subversion of the women and children is simple. Very simple, because they don't have a core nuclear family to instill any values or anything of that nature. And when you're not raising them, they are. Since you're not raising your children, the government will raise them. That's why they call it a nanny state. But I'm not going to go too far into that. I want to come back around to this womb hustle, because the Section 8 coupled with the food stamps, coupled with if you got enough kids or you live in a certain state, you'll get money with the food stamps, and coupled with this is how they're making a hustle. This is how they're making a living, because each child is a check. Not to mention child support hustling, and all of this. And see, they're not gaming the system in so much as they're committing welfare fraud. The system is set up where if I do it like this, I can actually get, these so-called benefits. I don't have any children. I'm not hustling my womb out. I would kill for some Section 8. Do you know how much money I could save if I didn't have to pay rent every month? Or if I only paid subsidized, only a little bit of rent, maybe a third of market value? You know what I could do with that money that isn't going to rent? I bet you one thing, it wouldn't go to weave, nails, and drugs and niggas and whatever else they spend their money on. I would be stacking that money. I'm telling you now, I don't even need $1 million windfall. All I need is this rent off my neck. And I would be saving so much money. And I would be looking to do something with that money. Invest it, open a business with it, do some entrepreneurial, things with it. Not just blow it off and do whatever. You see what I'm saying? But they not thinking that way. It's not about getting out of that situation. It's about I'm living a high life, the quote unquote high life, because I'm living in a place that's really nice. And in Chicago, you can get a real nice place on Section 8. You really can. You can get a place that my little behind working every day, call myself working every day, diligently making a steady check, I could never afford. Not on the wages that I make. Okay? I cannot afford $1,400 rent. I can't. Just a whole 1,400 just dedicated to rent out of the month and then other expenses? No, I don't have that. Because usually places want you to make 2 or 3 times what their rent is. I don't have that kind of money. And that's not even like rich money. That's, but I can't afford it. But if I had 4 kids or 5 kids, I could, because I'd be on Section 8 and I would have a bunch of food stamps, so I wouldn't have a food expense. So you don't have any food expense and you don't have a rent expense. That's, how much any of us would save without having to pay rent or spend cash money to buy food. Because food stamps is tax free. You know how much money you would save just if they didn't have taxes on your food? I could spend cash money, but there's no tax. You save a ton of money. So it's a hustle. So I don't want to hear the crocodile tears and the victimization and the victimhood about, oh, I have 4 or 5 kids. You wanted to have them because you had them. And I don't believe in using abortion as birth control. Trust me, ladies, I do not believe in using abortion as a birth control, because there's too many of them out there that will get rid of it before it becomes a kid. But, at last resort, you might go to the doctor and get it taken care of. There's a way not to have a kid. Okay? And most of you are looking to have a kid. You want to have this kid. So I don't want to hear about, well, he just walked out on me. No, you don't have to have that kid. You did not have to be pregnant. Even if you got pregnant, you didn't have to stay. That's what the morning after. That's what prevention is for. That's what it's for. Birth control has come a long way since I was 15. Because you either took that pill or you didn't. I've never been on birth control because I never needed it. But, back in the day, you took that birth control, and if that birth control made you fat because it's hormones, being you was just a little piggly wiggly girl, everybody knew you was on birth control because you gained 15 pounds. On that little circle of pills, and you dared not to miss one. You miss one, that's hell to pay the captain. And they weren't all that effective necessarily either, because you miss one, you'd be pregnant. Just one. So in this day and age, you don't have to have a bunch of kids if you don't want. Just because he, squirted and skeeted, why didn't he have a condom on? Why are you 35 years old, 36 years old, still getting hot and heavy without a condom? And how many times, so you've had 4 kids and you still have not understood how difficult it is to raise and rear 4 children on your own? That's because the difficulty of raising those children like that is mitigated by the government assistance that they receive. Because I bet your bottom dollar, if they weren't getting that for having a bunch of kids and you still had to work, they would limit it to 1 or 2. Because it's difficult to take care of yourself, let alone another mouth to feed. And somebody you have to watch, and somebody you have to clothe and feed and house and raise, and they need clothes, and then they gotta go to the doctor, and they need shoes, and they need because kids need a whole bunch of stuff all the time. Okay, so moving on a little bit from the womb hustle aspect and the victim aspect and the aspect of the advice being considered to be toxic. I didn't go so far in the clip, but in the original clip, after she tells her story, they get up and hug her as if that makes it better, or if, you know, that does anything positive to the situation. It doesn't. This is not, this is, I can't, destructive is not a, it's not good enough of a word. It's not potent enough to get that point across. It's really not. You know, potent, and it's not potent enough. That word is, destruction is not potent enough. Obliteration, annihilation might be getting closer. We are annihilated in part because of that. And I'm talking to you ladies. This mindset that you're a victim all the time. You can't have it both ways, because feminism teaches you that you're not a victim and that you can make whatever decision you want, and you're a woman and it's your body and no one can tell you anything. But when things go wrong, all of a sudden you didn't have any control over that situation. You can't have it both ways. You need to pick a struggle. One struggle, not 5 struggles. You need to pick one struggle and stick with it and overcome it. I don't know why we have to have a million struggles. Many of these wounds are self-inflicted. You having 6, 7 kids, that's a self-inflicted wound. I don't want to hear about how some man, oh, he just up and walked out on me. I don't want to hear that. Even if that was the case, I don't want to hear it. And the reason why I don't want to hear it, even if he did just up one day and act like he was going to get cigarettes and never came back, I'm going to need you to take accountability for your own actions, and I'm going to need you to just sit back and take inventory over your life. Because if you're going to buy into feminism, then I'm going to need you to own it. And I need you to own every single piece of decision, because feminism teaches you that men are stupid. So since men are stupid and you're the smartest thing since sliced bread, then it's your fault then. Right? Oh, but we don't want to hear that. So you want all the accolades, none of the blame. You know, I'm going to end it off with this, since you want all the accolades and none of the blame. Life doesn't even work like that. You know what else doesn't work like that? Football. The star quarterback gets all the accolades when the team win, when he throw that winning touchdown, when they was down by 2 scores and he drove down the field to win the game. Then the quarterback receives the accolades and the praise for winning that game. You know what else they receive? All the blame if they lost it. If they tried to go for the winning touchdown and it was an interception, ran back for 6. They call that a pick 6. It was the last play of the game. They was at the goal line and he fumbled a snap. Time runs out. Boom, they lose the game. Then he gets all of the blame for that. He has to shoulder all of the responsibility for that loss. Don't let it be a championship game or a big game. He really got to take it then. So when you're the star, When you're in the front, when you're in the lead, when you're the face of it, you get all the praise when it goes good, and you get all the blame when it goes bad. See you on the next video.